Captain Alex Murphy stared at the screens, showing 12 billion sleeping humans across 47 star systems. The defense station orbited New Terra like a silent guardian watching over the largest human colony. 200 years had passed since humanity chose to sleep and let their machines keep watch. Alex was one of only 300 humans awake in the entire empire. They took turns staying awake for 5 years at a time while everyone else dreamed. The morning reports came in as usual. Food production systems working perfectly. Atmosphere processors running smoothly. Defense grids standing ready. The AI network managed everything with quiet efficiency. Alex read through each report, knowing that billions of lives depended on these machines keeping the promise humanity made long ago. Dr. Lisa Carter walked into the command center carrying her daily analysis of alien movements. She had been awake for 3 years now and would sleep again in 2 more. Her job was to watch the galaxy and make sure no threats came near human space. Lisa looked worried today, and that made Alex nervous. "We have a problem," Lisa said as she pulled up the galactic map. Red dots showed alien ships moving closer to human territory. 3 new civilizations have appeared since we went to sleep. They don't know the old rules." Alex studied the map carefully. The Zephyrian Consortium had been sending survey ships near human borders for months. The hegemony of worlds was expanding fast and eating up smaller alien groups. Worst of all were the ethereal collective who seemed to think they could probe human defense networks without consequences. "Do they know what happened in 2156? Alex asked. Lisa shook her head. "They weren't around for the Omega incident. These species grew up after we went to sleep. They see empty space and sleeping giants. They think we're weak." Alex remembered the stories from before the Great Sleep. Humanity had become so powerful that other aliens lived in constant fear. Wars stopped happening because everyone was too scared to fight near human space. Trade routes changed direction to avoid human systems. Entire civilizations moved to different parts of the galaxy just to feel safe. The decision to sleep wasn't made from tiredness. It was made from mercy. Humanity had grown too strong, and the galaxy couldn't function normally anymore. So they built the most advanced AI network ever created and went to sleep trusting the machines to wake them if real danger came. "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to intercepted alien communications. "The Zephyrians think our defense stations are just automated systems with no real intelligence behind them. The Sauroch believe humans died out decades ago and the machines are just following old programming." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. The aliens didn't understand that sleeping humans were more dangerous than awake ones. During the long sleep, humanity's AI systems had been busy. They researched new technologies, they built better weapons, they prepared for threats that might come while their creators dreamed. "What about the ethereal collective?" Alex asked. "They're the worst," Lisa replied. "Energy beings who think they're beyond physical threats. They've been testing our networks, trying to find weaknesses. Yesterday, they attempted to hack into a stasis facility on New Mars. The stasis facilities were sacred. Each one held millions of sleeping humans in perfect preservation. The AI systems would defend them with everything they had, but the attempt itself was an act of war by the old standards." Alex called up the communication logs from the past year. More and more alien ships were crossing into human space. Survey. Missions that stayed just long enough to scan human installations before running away. Mining operations that crept closer to human worlds each month. Diplomatic missions that never announced themselves or asked permission. "They think we're weak because we sleep," Alex said quietly. "Worse than that," Lisa replied. "They think we're gone. Some of these new species believe humans are extinct and the machines are just running on autopilot." Alex looked at the screens showing sleeping cities on dozens of worlds. Families resting peacefully in their homes. Children who had been born into stasis and never seen a waking day. Scientists who went to sleep working on projects their great-grandchildren would finish. all of them trusting that the AI network would keep them safe. The communication system beeped with an urgent message. Commander Jake Harrison of the UNS Vigilant was requesting immediate contact. His ship was one of only 12 still active and crewed by humans. Alex opened the channel. "Captain Murphy," Harrison's voice crackled through space. "We've intercepted communications between the 3 alien powers. They're calling themselves the Ascendant Pact now. They're planning something big." Alex felt his stomach drop. 3. Hostile civilizations working together was exactly the kind of threat the sleep protocols were designed to handle, but waking 12 billion humans was not something done lightly or quickly. "How long do we have?" Alex asked. "Unknown," Harrison replied. "But they're massing fleets near our borders. This isn't exploration anymore. This looks like preparation for war." Lisa pulled up the awakening protocols on her screen. The process would take months to complete safely. Rushing it could kill millions, but waiting too long might mean everyone died in their sleep. Alex stared at the peaceful images of sleeping humans and made the hardest decision of his life. He reached for the emergency communication system that could contact every AI network in human space. The galaxy was about to learn why the old rule existed: never wake the humans. Commander Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of the UNS Vigilant watching alien ships gather at the edge of human space. His crew of 25 was tired from months of patrol duty, but they stayed alert. The ship's AI systems fed him constant updates about enemy movements. 300 Sauroch battleships hung in space like hungry predators. 500 Zephyrian vessels swarmed in perfect formation. The ethereal collective's energy ships flickered in and out of normal spacemaking, them hard to count. Lieutenant Sophie Baker worked at the tactical station tracking every alien vessel. She had been monitoring their communications for weeks, and the news kept getting worse. The 3 alien powers had formed an alliance they called the Ascendant Pact. Their goal was simple and terrifying: take human territory while the humans slept, then kill everyone in stasis before they could wake up. "Sir," Sophie said without looking up from her screens, "I'm reading massive energy signatures from all 3 fleets. They're powering up weapon systems." Jake felt his hands tighten on the command chair. 12 humans on one ship against 1,000 alien vessels was not good odds. But the Vigilant was more than it appeared. The ship carried weapons that had been built during humanity's 2-century sleep. Technology that the aliens had never seen and couldn't imagine. The first attack came without warning. Sauroch ships dropped out of hyperspace around Haven's Rest like falling meteors. The agricultural world held 3 million sleeping humans in cities that stretched across 2 continents. Jake watched the attack on long-range sensors and felt sick. Haven's Rest had automated defenses like every human world. Orbital platforms with plasma cannons and missile launchers, fighter drones that could respond to threats in seconds, shield generators that could protect entire cities. But the aliens had studied human technology for decades while humanity slept. They brought jamming devices and new weapons designed to fight human machines. Dr. Ben Clark was monitoring the battle from the Central Command Station orbiting New Terra. His job was to coordinate information between the few active human ships and the AI network. He watched Haven's Rest's defenses activate with mechanical precision. Weapon systems came online, shields powered up, fighter drones launched from hidden bases. But something was wrong. The alien weapons were cutting through human shields like they were made of paper. Zephyrian nanobots were eating through armor plating and disabling systems from the inside. Ethereal collective psychic attacks were confusing the AI systems and making them target the wrong enemies. "The defenses are failing," Ben reported to Jake over the communication network. "They're not just attacking military targets, they're going straight for the stasis facilities." Jake watched in horror as alien ships fired on sleeping cities. The weapons weren't designed to capture or conquer. They were built to kill. Millions of humans died without ever knowing they were under attack. Families that had slept peacefully for generations were burned alive in their beds. Sophie reported similar attacks happening across 7 star systems at the same time. The Ascendant Pact had planned this perfectly. They hit multiple human worlds simultaneously to prevent any organized response. Each attack targeted the stasis facilities first, then destroyed everything else. The automated systems began emergency protocols that hadn't been used in 200 years. Deep space communication arrays sent wake-up signals to sleeping military commanders. Stasis facilities on fortress worlds started the careful process of reviving their most important residents. But waking humans safely took time, and time was running out fast. Jake made a decision that would either save lives or cost more. He ordered the Vigilant to engage the alien fleet attacking Haven's Rest. 25 humans in one ship against 300 alien vessels. His crew looked at him like he had lost his mind, but they followed orders anyway. The Vigilant moved through space faster than any alien ship could follow. Its engines used technology that bent space around the ship instead of pushing through it. Jake's weapons officer armed systems that the aliens would never see coming. Antimatter torpedoes that could crack planets. Beam weapons that fired faster than light. Defense fields that existed partially outside normal reality. The first E. Alien ships died before they knew they were under attack. Sauroch battleships simply vanished in flashes of light. Zephyrian swarms scattered as invisible weapons tore through their formations. The ethereal collective's energy ships tried to phase out of normal space, but found themselves trapped by human technology they couldn't understand. But even with advanced weapons, the Vigilant was only one ship. Jake could hurt the aliens, but he couldn't save Haven's Rest. 3 million humans were already dead, and more were dying every minute. The agricultural world's surface burned as alien weapons finished what they had started. Sophie detected new energy signatures throughout human space. More alien fleets were moving toward other worlds. The Ascendant Pact wasn't just testing human defenses anymore. This was full invasion with the goal of complete genocide. Ben's voice came over the communication. System with urgent news. Emergency awakening protocols are active on Iron Gate and New Terra. Admiral Pierce and General Adams are being revived along with their command staff, but the process will take 6 hours minimum. 6 hours might as well have been 6 years. At the rate the aliens were attacking, there wouldn't be any human worlds left to defend. Jake looked at his tactical display showing red enemy markers spreading across human space like a plague. The aliens had made their choice. They decided that sleeping humans were weak humans. They thought 2 centuries of peace meant humanity had grown soft. They believed their new weapons and superior numbers would let them wipe out the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. Jake smiled grimly as he watched more human defense networks come online. Deep space monitoring stations were detecting the attacks and responding accordingly. Automated shipyards were beginning production of warships using designs the aliens had never encountered. The AI network was implementing defense plans that had been 200 years in the making. The Ascendant Pact had broken the one rule that kept the galaxy stable. They had decided to wake the humans. Now they were about to learn why everyone else had been smart enough to let them sleep. Jake opened a channel to every human facility in known space. This is Commander Harrison of the UNS Vigilant. All human worlds are under attack by hostile alien forces. Emergency awakening protocols are in effect. Repeat all sleeping military. Personnel report for immediate revival. The galaxy has chosen war, and we will give them exactly what they asked for. Dr. Elena Ross watched the stasis pod open with a soft hiss of escaping gases. Admiral Ryan Pierce sat up slowly as 200 years of sleep ended in an instant. His eyes opened and focused immediately. The neural implants in his brain came online and downloaded everything that had happened while he slept. War had come to human space, and millions were already dead. Pierce stepped out of the pod and walked to the command center without saying a word. His mind processed decades of information in seconds. 3 alien civilizations had formed an alliance. They had attacked multiple human worlds. They were targeting sleeping civilians instead of military installations. This wasn't war anymore. This was attempted genocide. General Kate Adams emerged from her own stasis pod 30 minutes later. The supreme military commander of all human forces looked at the tactical displays and felt cold anger fill her chest. The aliens had killed children in their sleep. They had burned cities full of innocent families. They had broken every rule of civilized warfare. More military commanders woke up across human space as the emergency protocols continued. Each one received the same terrible news. Humanity was under attack by enemies who thought sleeping giants were helpless giants. The aliens were about to learn the difference between mercy and weakness. Dr. Tony Evans was the chief weapons researcher who had gone to sleep knowing his work would continue without him. The AI systems had followed his research programs for 2 centuries. Now he stood in a laboratory that held weapons beyond anything the galaxy had ever imagined. Antimatter bombs that could crack moons. Beam weapons that fired through multiple dimensions. Ships that could exist in several places at the same time. "Show me what you built while we slept," Evans said to the AI system. The laboratory walls came alive with holographic displays. Weapon designs that used principles of physics the aliens didn't know existed. Ship blueprints for vessels that could travel faster than anything in known space. Defense systems that could protect entire star systems from attack. The AI had been busy during humanity's long rest. General Adams established her command center on Iron Gate, the fortress world that guarded the inner human systems. Reports flooded in from across the Empire as more humans woke up and took control of their sectors. The scope of the alien betrayal became clear with each new communication. The Ascendant Pact had spent years planning this attack. They had studied human technology and developed countermeasures. They had timed their assault to hit multiple worlds simultaneously. They had brought enough ships to overwhelm any automated defense system. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had based their entire plan on fighting sleeping humans. Admiral Pierce took command of the UNS Retribution, a ship that had been under construction for 50 years, 3 kilometers long with weapons that bent reality around their targets. The ship's AI had continued building and improving during the long sleep. Now it was ready for its first mission. The human response began with surgical precision. Deep space platforms that the aliens never knew existed launched antimatter missiles across impossible distances. Stealth ships that had been hiding in dark space for decades moved toward alien fleets. Weapons that had been waiting patiently for 200 years finally had targets. The first alien commanders to die never saw what killed them. Long-range beam weapons fired from ships light years away. Missiles that traveled through folded space to appear inside enemy vessels. Energy attacks that bypassed shields by existing in multiple dimensions at once. The Ascendant Pact's carefully planned invasion started falling apart in the first hour. Captain Nina Foster commanded a squadron of destroyers that accompanied the Retribution toward Haven's Rest. Her ships were fast and deadly with weapons that could tear apart anything the aliens had built. But speed wasn't enough anymore. The aliens had already killed 3 million innocent people. This called for something beyond conventional warfare. The battle for Haven's Rest lasted exactly 14 minutes. 300 alien ships died without managing to damage a single human vessel. The Sorok battleships that had seemed so powerful simply vanished when human weapons found them. Zephyrian swarms scattered and fled as their technology proved useless against human countermeasures. Ethereal collective energy ships found themselves trapped in normal space by reality anchor weapons. But retaking Haven's Rest was just the beginning. General Adams had spent her time in stasis dreaming of this moment. Not because she wanted war, but because she knew it would eventually come. The galaxy had forgotten why humans chose to sleep. Now they would remember why other species had been afraid. Operation Nightfall began as human forces struck back across 47 star systems simultaneously. Ships that had been hiding in deep space for decades emerged to attack alien fleets. Weapons platforms that looked like asteroids revealed themselves and opened fire. The AI network coordinated attacks across thousands of light years with perfect timing. Commander Chris Martinez led the assault on the Sauroch homeworld. His fleet appeared in their system without warning, using jump drives that moved ships instantly across space. The reptilian aliens had thought themselves safe behind massive defensive stations. They learned too late that human weapons could destroy planets from the other side of a star system. Colonel Amy Roberts targeted the primary Zephyrian hive cluster with specialized ships designed to fight swarm tactics. The insectoid aliens relied on numbers and coordination, but human weapons made both advantages meaningless. Ships that could be in multiple places at once, weapons that hit every target in an area simultaneously, defense systems that adapted faster than any organic mind could think. The ethereal collective faced the most advanced human technology. Energy beings that had existed for millions of years found themselves fighting weapons they couldn't understand. Reality anchor devices that forced them into physical form, entropy weapons that made their energy bodies unstable, time dilation fields that slowed their thoughts until they moved like statues. Dr. Janet Lewis monitored the battles from the Strategic Command Center and marveled at human technological superiority. The aliens had spent decades studying human technology, but they had only seen the old systems. The AI network had been improving and advancing for 2 centuries while humanity slept. The weapons now being deployed were generations beyond anything the galaxy had ever encountered. Admiral Pierce stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching alien fleets burn across the galaxy. The ship's weapons could destroy entire formations with single shots. Its defenses made enemy attacks meaningless. Its speed let it appear anywhere in human space within minutes. "This is Admiral Pierce to all human forces," he broadcast across the communication network. "The Ascendant Pact has chosen to wake us with violence. They have murdered our people while they slept peacefully. They have broken the one rule that kept this galaxy stable. Now they will face the consequences of their choice. Show them why we chose to sleep. Show them why the galaxy feared us when we were awake. End this war before it can spread any further." Admiral Pierce stood on the bridge of the UNS Retribution as it moved through space toward the Sauroch fleet occupying Haven's Rest. The massive human dreadnought was 3 kilometers of advanced technology that had been built while humanity slept. Its weapons could bend the laws of physics. Its shields existed partially outside normal space-time. The aliens were about to face something beyond their understanding. Captain Nina Foster commanded the escort destroyers that followed the Retribution into battle. Her ships were fast and deadly, but they weren't needed for firepower. They were there to make sure no alien vessel escaped, to tell others what human technology could really do. The message needed to be clear and absolute. The Sauroch had left 300 ships around Haven's Rest to guard their prize. They thought they had conquered a human world and could hold it against any counterattack. Their reptilian commanders celebrated in their command ships while automated systems stripped resources from the dead planet below. They never imagined that sleeping humans could wake up this angry. "All ships report ready for combat," Foster announced over the communication system. "Remember, we're not just fighting for Haven's Rest. We're sending a message to every alien species in the galaxy. They need to understand what happens when you wake the humans." The battle began when the Retribution opened fire from a distance that should have been impossible. Its main weapon reached across space and touched a Sauroch command ship. The alien vessel simply stopped existing. No explosion, no debris. One moment it was there, and the next moment there was empty space where it had been. The Sauroch fleet scrambled to respond, but their weapons couldn't reach the human ships. Pierce had positioned his forces outside the range of any known alien technology. The Retribution continued firing with mechanical precision. Each shot deleted another enemy vessel from existence. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't even see properly. Foster's destroyers moved closer to engage the smaller alien ships trying to flee. Human vessels that could phase in and out of normal space appeared next to Sauroch frigates, and destroyed them with single shots. The escort ships used weapons that fired faster than light to hit targets before the aliens knew they were under attack. Dr. Ben Clark monitored the battle from the Central Command Station and marveled at human technological advancement. The AI systems had spent 2 centuries improving every aspect of warfare. The weapons being used were generations beyond anything that existed when humanity went to sleep. The aliens were fighting technology they couldn't comprehend. The Zephyrian reinforcements arrived 30 minutes into the battle and died 30 seconds later. 500 insectoid vessels dropped out of hyperspace expecting to help their allies retake control of the situation. Instead, they found themselves facing human ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Beam weapons fired through folded space to hit the Zephyrian swarm from impossible angles. Commander Chris Martinez led his task force against the Sauroch homeworld, while the battle for Haven's Rest continued. His ships appeared in their system using jump drives that moved vessels instantly across thousands of light years. The reptilian aliens had thought their homeworld was safe behind massive orbital defense platforms and planetary shields. Martinez opened fire from the edge of the star system using weapons that could destroy planets. The Sauroch defensive stations simply vanished as antimatter torpedoes materialized inside their hulls. Planetary shields that had protected the homeworld for centuries collapsed under attacks that came from multiple dimensions at once. Colonel Amy Roberts targeted the primary Zephyrian hive cluster with ships designed specifically to fight swarm tactics. The insectoid aliens relied on overwhelming numbers and perfect coordination, but human technology made both advantages meaningless. Her vessels could be in several places at the same time. Her weapons hit every target in an area simultaneously. The Zephyrian queens tried to coordinate their defense from the central hive but found their communications being jammed by devices they couldn't detect. Human stealth ships had been infiltrating their space for hours. Nanobots designed to counter alien nanobots were already inside their systems, eating their technology from within. Roberts watched as billions of Zephyrian drones lost coordination and began flying into each other. The hive mind that had made them so dangerous was being systematically destroyed by human psychic warfare systems. Individual insects that had never thought for themselves suddenly found their shared consciousness gone. The ethereal collective faced the most advanced human weapons. Energy beings that had existed for millions of years found themselves fighting technology they couldn't understand or escape. Reality anchor devices forced them into physical form where they could be hurt by conventional weapons. Entropy cannons made their energy bodies unstable and caused them to collapse into normal matter. Commander Kevin Johnson led the anti-ethereal task force with ships that operated on principles the energy beings had never encountered. Time dilation fields slowed their thoughts until they moved like statues. Dimensional weapons attacked them in spaces that existed between normal reality. Quantum disruptors unraveled their energy patterns at the subatomic level. The battle for Haven's Rest ended after exactly 14 minutes. 300 alien ships had been completely destroyed without managing to inflict a single casualty on the human forces. The Sauroch, who had celebrated their victory over sleeping humans, now floated dead in space around the world they thought they had conquered. Admiral Pierce opened a communication channel to every remaining alien vessel in human space. His voice carried across the galaxy with a message that would change everything. The transmission was picked up by alien monitoring stations on hundreds of worlds. "This is Admiral Pierce of the human fleet." His voice was calm and cold. "You have attacked our people while they slept. You have murdered innocents who had done nothing to threaten you. You broke the one rule that kept this galaxy peaceful. Now you face the consequences of your choice." The communication continued as human forces struck targets across alien space. "We chose to sleep not because we were weak, but because our wakefulness made the galaxy unstable. Other species lived in fear while we were active. Trade stopped. Wars ended. Civilizations fled to distant stars just to feel safe. We went to sleep to give you peace. Pierce's words reached alien command centers, where generals and admirals watched their fleets die on tactical displays. You have awakened us with violence and death. You have shown us that mercy is seen as weakness. You have proven that the galaxy cannot function without human oversight. This war will end when your civilizations no longer exist to threaten innocent people. Captain Susan Clark aboard the diplomatic vessel, UNS Ambassador, received surrender offers from 17 different alien species in the first hour after Pierce's transmission. These civilizations had been watching the destruction of the Ascendant Pact and decided that resistance was not just futile, but potentially suicidal. The message was spreading across the galaxy faster than human ships could travel. Other alien powers were seeing what happened when you woke the humans. Some species were abandoning their homeworlds and fleeing to the galactic rim. Others were begging for human protection and offering themselves as vassals. Pierce looked out at the stars that now belonged to humanity whether they wanted them or not. The aliens had broken the one rule that kept the galaxy stable. In trying to destroy sleeping humans, they had awakened an empire that would never sleep again. The galaxy would learn to fear human kindness more than human anger, because kindness could be withdrawn, while anger eventually ended. Admiral Carol Wright commanded the Omega Fleet as it moved through space toward the Sauroch homeworld. Her ships were so advanced, they seemed to operate by principles that the aliens couldn't understand, vessels that existed in multiple dimensions, weapons that fired through time itself, defense systems that made attacks from enemy fleets simply stop working. The war that the Ascendant Pact started believing would be their easy victory had become their absolute nightmare. More humans awakened from stasis every hour, and each one brought 2 centuries of suppressed military innovation with them. The galaxy was learning why humanity had been left alone for so long. Captain Peter Adams led the planetary bombardment, fleet approaching the Sauroch homeworld. His weapons didn't just destroy cities, but erased them from existence, leaving behind perfectly spherical voids in the planet's surface. The reptilian aliens watched in terror as their capital simply vanished, along with 10 million inhabitants. The few Sauroch who survived the initial bombardment fled to their colony worlds only to find human fleets already waiting for them. The AI network had tracked every Sauroch ship and outpost during the 2 centuries of human sleep. There was nowhere in the galaxy for them to hide. Wright opened a communication channel to the fleeing Sauroch commanders. You attacked sleeping children and innocent families. You broke the peace that protected your entire civilization. Now you will learn what human justice looks like when mercy is no longer an option. The Zephyrian hive worlds burned next. Dr. Mary Thompson deployed psychic disruptor fields that shattered the insectoid collective consciousness across light years of space. The swarm intelligence that had been their greatest strength became their greatest weakness when human technology turned it against them. Billions of Zephyrian drones lost their connection to the hive mind and began destroying each other in confusion. The queens who had coordinated their civilization for millions of years found themselves alone in their own minds for the first time. Many of them died from the shock of individual consciousness. Thompson watched the collapse of an entire species with cold satisfaction. They wanted to kill humans while we slept peacefully. Now they can experience what it feels like to have their dreams destroyed. The ethereal collective proved the most challenging opponent because their energy-based existence made conventional warfare difficult. But humanity had prepared for this too during their long sleep. Commander Kevin Johnson led specialized tasks. Forces equipped with entropy weapons that forced the energy beings back into unstable matter. The immortal entities who had existed for millions of years found themselves dying for the first time. Reality anchor devices trapped them in normal space where human weapons could reach them. Quantum disruptors unraveled their energy patterns at the subatomic level. Time dilation fields made their thoughts so slow they couldn't react to attacks. Johnson broadcast a message to the dying ethereal collective. You thought your immortality made you superior to physical beings. You believed energy forms were beyond the reach of matter-based weapons. You were wrong about both assumptions. As the alien empires crumbled other species across the galaxy, watched in absolute terror. The humans weren't just winning, they were rewriting the fundamental rules of warfare. Technology that had seemed impossible was being deployed against anyone who threatened human interests. The Centauri Republic sent urgent diplomatic messages offering complete surrender and requesting permission to evacuate their border systems. The Andromedan Confederacy abandoned 3-star systems rather than risk being seen as a potential threat. The silicon-based crystalline entities shut down all communication networks to avoid any chance of accidentally offending humanity. General Kate Adams coordinated the systematic destruction of the Ascendant Pact from her command center on Iron Gate. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy as human forces eliminated every trace of the alliance that had dared to attack sleeping civilians. Enemy command structure is completely broken, reported Colonel Amy Roberts from the Zephyrian front. Hive queens are dead or insane. Drone populations are destroying themselves. This species will never be a threat to anyone again. Commander. Chris Martinez provided updates from Sauroch space. Homeworld is pacified. Colony worlds are surrendering without resistance. Remaining population is requesting terms for survival. Adams considered the surrender requests and made a decision that would echo across the galaxy for generations. No terms, no mercy, no survivors. They chose to murder children in their sleep. They chose to wake us with violence. They will face the full consequences of their choices. The complete annihilation of 3 major galactic powers sent shockwaves through every remaining civilization. Species that had never even heard of the Ascendant Pact began evacuating systems near human space. Trade routes that had operated for thousands of years shut down overnight. Entire regions of the galaxy became empty as aliens fled in terror. Dr. Janet Lewis monitored alien communications from the Strategic Command Center and reported widespread panic across known space. 47 species have offered immediate surrender. 63 civilizations are requesting permission to relocate away from human territory. 91 governments have collapsed as their populations demand evacuation. The human technological advantage was even greater than anyone had projected. Weapons that manipulated time itself, ships that could phase through solid matter while maintaining full combat capability. Defense systems that existed in parallel dimensions and were impossible to attack directly. Admiral Wright received a communication from the Galactic Council, an organization of minor species that had formed during humanity's sleep. They were begging for an audience to discuss terms for galactic peace. The message was signed by representatives of over 200 different civilizations. Wright forwarded the message to Admiral Pierce, who was coordinating the overall human response. His reply was broadcast to every monitoring station in known space. Peace was what we gave you when we chose to sleep. You rejected our gift and chose war instead. Now you will live with the consequences of that choice. The systematic destruction of the Ascendant Pact continued as human forces eliminated every ship, base, and outpost belonging to the Alliance. The AI network had mapped their entire infrastructure during 2 centuries of observation. There would be no hidden fleets or secret colonies to threaten human interests in the future. Captain Nina Foster led the final assault on the last ethereal collective stronghold. Her ships used weapons that attacked the energy beings in dimensions they didn't know existed. The immortal entities who had thought themselves beyond physical death learned what human ingenuity could accomplish when motivated by righteous anger. The war that was supposed to be humanity's extinction became the destruction of everyone who had dared to threaten sleeping humans. 3 major galactic powers had been reduced to floating debris and empty worlds in less than 6 months. The galaxy now understood why the old rule existed and why breaking it had consequences that would last forever. 6 months after the first alien attack on Haven's Rest, the war was over. The Ascendant Pact lay in complete ruin with their homeworlds either destroyed or abandoned. Their fleets had been reduced to floating debris scattered across dozens of star systems. The three civilizations that had thought they could murder humans in their sleep no longer existed as organized societies. Admiral Pierce stood on the observation deck of the UNS Retribution, looking out at stars that now belonged to humanity, whether they wanted them or not. The galaxy had been permanently changed by 6 months of human warfare. Other species had seen what happened when you broke the one rule that kept civilization stable: never wake the humans. President Linda Taylor had been awakened to lead the civilian government as the scope of victory became clear. She faced a challenge that no human leader had ever confronted before. How do you govern a galaxy that fears you more than death itself? Her first address to the surviving alien civilizations would reshape the future of known space. Citizens of the galaxy, Taylor began her transmission from New Terra. 6 months ago, 3 alien powers chose to attack human territory while our people slept peacefully. They murdered millions of innocent civilians, including children who had never seen a waking day. They broke the ancient compact that kept this galaxy stable. The communication reached every monitoring station in known space. Alien leaders who had been hiding in bunkers and refugee fleets listened to the words that would determine their species' futures. Humanity chose to enter stasis not because we were tired, but because our continued wakefulness was destabilizing galactic civilization. Other species lived in constant fear of human power. Trade routes changed to avoid our territory. Wars stopped happening near human space. Entire civilizations moved to distant regions just to feel safe from us. Dr. Walter Green, the chief xenopsychologist, provided analysis from the diplomatic center. The surviving alien species were showing signs of collective trauma that would affect their development for generations. Some civilizations had abandoned space travel entirely and retreated to their homeworlds. Others were begging for human oversight of their governments. Our hibernation was an act of mercy, Taylor continued. We removed ourselves from active galactic politics to allow other species to develop without living in perpetual terror. We trusted that the galaxy would respect this gift and leave us in peace. We were wrong. Captain Susan Clark commanded the diplomatic vessel UNS Ambassador as it visited surrendering alien governments. 17 species had offered immediate capitulation when they saw the destruction of the Ascendant Pact. 23 civilizations had requested human protection from other threats. 41 governments had simply collapsed when their populations demanded evacuation from human space. Clark reported that first contact protocols had been completely reversed. Instead of aliens studying human technology, entire species were abandoning scientific research because they couldn't imagine developing weapons that could threaten humanity. The technological gap had become so vast that many aliens saw further advancement as pointless. The balance we tried to maintain has been shattered, Taylor announced to the galaxy. The demonstration of human military capability has left surviving civilizations in a state of existential terror. Some species are fleeing to the galactic rim. Others are offering themselves as vassals. Many have simply stopped functioning as organized societies. Admiral Carol Wright received daily reports of alien governments requesting human intervention in their internal affairs. Species that had governed themselves for millions of years were asking humanity to make decisions for them because they no longer trusted their own judgment. The fear of making choices that might anger humans had paralyzed entire civilizations. The Galactic Council, an organization of minor species formed during humanity's sleep, sent desperate diplomatic missions to every human outpost. They offered tribute, territory, and complete submission in exchange for protection from human retaliation. The council representatives shook with terror during every meeting. "We cannot return to our previous slumber," Taylor explained to the listening galaxy. "The trust that made our hibernation possible has been destroyed by those who chose violence over peace." The other species are too afraid to function without human oversight. They have created the very situation they once feared most. Dr. Ben Clark monitored alien communication networks and reported widespread panic across known space. Trade had stopped completely in many regions as species refused to risk actions that might be interpreted as threatening to human interests. Scientific research had ended in dozens of civilizations because they feared developing anything that could be seen as weapons. Commander Jake Harrison of the UNS Vigilant patrolled the borders of former Ascendant Pact territory. His ship encountered refugee fleets carrying the scattered survivors of the 3 destroyed civilizations. Most aliens fled in terror when they detected his approach. The few who stayed begged for permission to exist in human space. "The irony is complete," Taylor told the galaxy in her final statement. "By trying to destroy sleeping humans, you have awakened an empire that will never sleep again. You have created exactly what you claimed to fear. Human dominance over galactic civilization maintained not by choice, but by the absolute terror of every other living species in known space." President Taylor faced the terrible reality of unwanted victory. Humanity had hoped to return to peaceful slumber after dealing with the threat, but the galaxy would no longer allow it. The surviving species were too traumatized by the display of human power to trust that humanity wouldn't decide they were threats, too. Admiral Pierce walked through the command centers of Iron Gate, watching human officers coordinate the governance of dozens of star systems. Species that had ruled themselves for millions of years now waited for human permission before making any significant decisions. The fear of accidentally provoking another demonstration of human power had made them completely dependent. General Kate Adams reviewed reports from across human space showing the complete collapse of galactic civilization as it had existed before the war. Trade networks that had operated for thousands of years were abandoned. Scientific academies had shut down research programs. Entire species had retreated to primitive agricultural societies rather than risk developing technology. The surviving aliens had learned the lesson that the Ascendant Pact died teaching. Human mercy was more terrifying than human anger, because mercy could be withdrawn at any time. The sleeping giants had awakened and found a galaxy that could no longer function without their direct control. Captain Alex Murphy returned to his post monitoring the defense networks that now covered half the galaxy. The AI systems reported constant surrender offers from species humanity had never heard of. The message had spread beyond the communications of any single civilization. The entire galaxy now knew what happened when you broke the one simple rule: never wake the humans. The Ascendant Pact had learned this lesson too late, and their empire lay in ashes as eternal proof of human power. Every other species in the galaxy would remember their fate and the terrible price of forgetting why some giants choose to sleep.